The United Nations says cutting global aid is due to funding crisis that the organization is currently facing. The United Kingdom provides Yemen with 205 million humanitarian support meant for women and children. Houthis continue to tamper with education and loot millions of riyals from the Teachers Fund. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. I am Abir Ali and you're watching the English news. Conflict, climate change and financial turmoil are increasing the need for humanitarian aid, but a lack of funding is resulting in painful rollbacks, the UN chief told a meeting in Geneva on Wednesday. Lack of funding has led to cut in global food aid. This report has more.
The United Nations has been forced to scale back on food, cash payments, and aid to millions of people in several countries due to a crippling funding crisis that has seen donations fall by about 50%, while acute hunger reaches record levels. At a press briefing, the World Food Programme said that at least 38 of the 86 countries where it operates had either witnessed cuts or expect to do so shortly, including Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and West Africa. The World Food Programme's operational demand is $20 billion to provide food to everyone in need, but the organization was hoping for about $10 billion and $14 billion, which is what it has received in recent years. So far this year, the organization has only received $5 billion. The World Food Programme predicted that humanitarian needs will skyrocket in 2021 and 2022 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine and its worldwide ramifications. While those requirements continue to expand, financing is running out, and the coming year looks much worse. This year, 345 million people globally remain acutely food insecure, while millions more face starvation. Conflict and instability, as well as climate change, unremitting emergencies, chronic food price inflation, and rising monetary strain continue to be the primary causes of severe food shortages across the world. The WFP is attempting to broaden its financing source, but is urging regular donors to step up and support it through this tough period. In Yemen, a major financial shortage will compel the WFP to withdraw supplies from 7 million people as early as August. Yemen's present level hunger is unparalleled, inflicting immense misery for 17 million Yemenis who still lack access to food.
Yemen, the worst famine the world has seen in 100 years. Right now, over 8 million people are facing starvation. Since the beginning of the war, 85,000 children have died due to the lack of food. We cannot allow this to continue. The Yemeni people can't wait.
The United Nations announced that more than 20% of oil load in Safar had been unloaded. The UNDP said that until the third day of the rescue operation, 223,000 barrels of oil were safely unloaded from Safar tanker to the alternative tanker. The United Nations announced that the start of the process of transferring the oil from Safar to the replacement ship through a Dutch company. The Yemeni Women's Union in Taiz held the first consultative meeting to discuss women and family issues. With the support of the UN Population Fund, participants discussed the importance of the activating family court to decide family cases, especially since most of these cases result from repercussions of the war. This meeting was attended by a number of judges and law enforcers in the government because of their direct involvement in women and family issues.
Today, the Yemeni Women's Union in Taiz held a meeting to discuss women's issues, and it was attended by judges and other law executives. We discussed today some family cases to help Yemeni women as they face violations and lack of implementing laws.
Some women suffer disintegration of the family due to the war, high prices and other hard conditions. So we had to raise awareness among women in cooperation with imams of mosques and other sophisticated people.
The UK Foreign Secretary has announced new healthcare support to vulnerable Yemeni women and children. UK funding will aim to deliver crucial support to over 1 million vulnerable Yemeni women and children annually. This report has more.
1 million Yemeni women and children would benefit significantly from a new £160 million aid package launched by the United Kingdom. Foreign Secretary James Cleverly stated that the money will reach the most vulnerable in Yemen. According to the United Nations, 2/3 of Yemen's 21 million people are in need of humanitarian aid this year. The UN describes the situation in Yemen as the world's worst humanitarian crisis and a man-made famine. Yemen's current level of hunger is extremely dangerous, causing great suffering for millions of people. The conflict in the country has left about 227,000 people dead or suffering from famine. The war has also led to the poor access to healthcare services. Now, women and children will benefit from a variety of programs to help them. The Yemen Women and Children Program, which will run for 4 years, will include fundamental healthcare services such as nutrition, water cleanness, sanitation, and reproductive health care. Mr. Cleverly stressed that the investment, which is in addition to the £1 billion previously donated to Yemen by the UK since the conflict began in 2014, demonstrates the UK's strengthening cooperation with the region. He went on to say that the crisis in Yemen continues to bring agony and suffering for millions of Yemenis, with women and children bearing the brunt of the conflict. According to the UK Foreign Office, there are 2.2 million children and 1.3 million pregnant mothers who are acutely malnourished in Yemen. Yemen's extreme poverty, food insecurity, and malnutrition have been exacerbated by years of conflict, the statement continued. However, after the violence has not resumed since the UN broker peace technically ended in October last year, it is hoped that the outlook for all Yemenis will progressively improve.
8 people were killed and injured as a result of armed tribal clashes in Abiyangabarat. Local sources said that 2 people were killed and 6 others were wounded as a result of clashes between tribes. According to the sources, 1 was killed and his brother as well, while 3 passers-by were injured. 1 civilian was killed by a mine explosion planted by the Houthi militia in Hodeidah. Local sources said that a 37-year-old civilian was killed on Thursday evening as a result of Houthi mine explosion on a secondary road. The sources indicated that the victim was riding a motorcycle and returning to his family from the city of Al-Jarrahi when the mine exploded. The Information and Training Center for Human Rights documented 78 Houthi violations in Taiz Governorate. The center's monthly report indicated that Houthi militia snipers killed 2 civilians, including a child, and wounded 7 others, including a woman. The report indicated that the center's field team documented a mass evacuation from some villages due to the shelling by the Houthi militia with heavy weapons and mortars. Houthis continue to tamper with the education sector. Recent reports reveal that the rebel militia looted millions of riyals from the Teachers Fund, which is meant to support teachers as they haven't paid their salaries for more than 5 years. This report has more.
Informed educational sources reveal that the Houthi militia has looted approximately 820 million riyals per month from the Teachers Fund since its approval 4 years ago, while teachers are still suffering from poverty and hunger due to the Houthis' refusal to pay their salaries. The sources talked about militia corruption in the Ministry of Education, where 5 billion riyals were allocated for printing school curricula that are printed in government textbook printing presses with the support of international and regional organizations, and then sold for excessive amounts to students, and their value goes into the pockets of the militia leaders. The sources confirmed that teachers are still suffering from deprivation, despite many Houthi initiatives to plunder resources in the name of teachers. In addition to the Teachers Fund, the militia announced the Community Education Initiative, according to which each student was obligated to pay 8,000 riyals for enrollment in public schools, in addition to monthly levies. The sources confirmed that private schools pay large sums of money to the Ministry of Education, and the schools whose walls were demolished and commercial stores were built instead, with claims that the revenues go to pay teachers' salaries, but they went unheeded. The sources pointed out that the funds pay hundreds of millions to the Ministry of Education in the name of exams and other things. After 200 riyals were imposed on each gas tank under the pretext of salaries or incentives for teachers, And all of it went only to the militia. Currently, the militia has appointed cultural supervisors in all private schools, and the schools bear the payment of their salaries and incentives in order for these supervisors to impose the policies and directions of the militia on those schools, in a crude act in which the student is forced to pay fees for mobilizing him with the Houthi ideology.
Coming up in the news. Epidemics and diseases plague displaced camps in Ma'rib amid poor health services.
أبي مات بشارع 40 دحين أنا أشقى على أسرتي مع باقي اللي أنا أصرف عليهم كل شيء. أنا اسمي أنس رصيد سيف عمري 12 سنة. أنا أشتغل بورشة حديد من الساعة 7 للساعة 6. أحيانا أسرع أحيانا أقص أحيانا أرنق أحيانا أنقش أي حاجة أنا أعمل. لا الساعة لما تدين الساعة 6 أوقف. أنا وقفت الدراسة عشان ما فيش أحد يشقى على أسرتي. أدرس أخواني الباقي منهم 4 وأنا الخامس. أحلم إن أفتح ورشة أبي وأشقى على أسرتي وأندي لهم مصاري. وأدرس أخوتي الآخر الجامعات وأطبخ أي شيء.
Welcome back. Residents of Lahish Governorate, especially fresh university graduates, have started working in buying and selling mangoes to help provide for their families. This comes amid the hard living conditions that the country undergoes due to the conflict. This report has more.
In Lahij province, many residents have turned to the mango trade in light of poverty and the scarcity of wages. Many have opted to sell mangoes as a side gig, as salaries from their main jobs fail to cover the costs of their daily expenses.
We sell mangoes here. As an employee, I get paid 45,000 riyal, which is insignificant to cover my daily expenses. In addition, salary